Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is Jean Potter from the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. I'm part of the Teaching and Learning team, and this is our second NWEA webinar on NWEA map reports. My co-host again today is Jeff Pritchard, the statewide NWEA coordinator for OPSRC. Hi, Jeff.
How are you doing, Jane?
Well, I'm doing better now that this is working.
You gotta love technology, don't you?
I do. When it works, it's great. When it isn't, I don't love it. Today's webinar is going to focus on the class breakdown report. Jeff, how's this different from the breakdown or from the class report that we used last time?
The class breakdown report lets you kind of dig down a little bit deeper and find more information. The class report is just pretty static. You can go in and you look, and you want to look at that and kind of tell, you know, how much time the students took. It's a good way to get a snapshot of where your entire class is. But then you get to the class breakdown report. It lets you have a lot more information. It lets you toggle back and forth to look at it in different views. Get to your learning continuum easier. So it's just a much more interactive report that lets you see the information in a variety of ways really quickly.
Okay, thanks for that information. I'm going to switch to my screen share, and Jeff, if you want to switch also. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now, and you should be able to see my mouse moving if I've done everything right. Because I'm new to this, I'm going to walk us through again how to do that just to make sure that I'm on the right page. So what I did was I signed into the NWEA website, and I'm going to view reports. I'm going to map reports. And we're looking, as we said, at the class breakdown report. So I'm going to click on that. Once I get to this, I'm going to make sure that I have data. Your view will be slightly different than mine because we're looking at, number one, an older page, and we're also looking at data for a sample. So yours will look slightly different. I'm going to go to the fall 2015-2016 just because I know it's there. And I'm going to go to Three Sisters Elementary, choose the teacher, and then, Jeff, how would you like for me to choose the class breakdown?
Let's go do it by RIT to begin with, and we can look at the others as we go.
Okay, sounds good. And I'm not going to create the PDF report. As Jeff said, if I look at it online, it's very interactive, so I'm going to switch to that. This is what will come up, and then I'm going to let Jeff walk you through it.
Yeah. Once you get to the point where you can see,
as part of our ongoing glitches with the class breakdown report, we've had to stop the presentation and restart using at a different time. As part of our ongoing glitches with the NWEA class breakdown report, we've had to splice in some additional footage. Unfortunately, Jeff will not be able to be here, but I'm going to try to go through all of the things that he talked about in the original broadcast. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. So here's where we were before. I had just selected the class breakdown report, term roster, the school, the instructor, and the class that we're talking about. We're going to start by looking at the RIT. So I'm going to view the report online. And again, as Jeff pointed out, this is interactive, so lots of different ways we can look at it. This is what it would look like if I view the report online. As you can see, it shows mathematics, reading, and language usage. For today's purposes, we're going to be really looking at math. And this looks at the overall RIT score. The range for this class is from 191 all the way up to 230, with E.H. Irvin getting a RIT score of 229. But you can also see that we have several students who are grouped here in the 201 to 210 range and the 211 to 220 range. This would mean that these students could be easily grouped and done with some large group instruction. And then our outliers like I.H. McCormick and the 3 up here in the higher range might need some individual instruction to meet their individual learning needs, or a very small group instruction. This is an interactive, so everything that's in blue, highlighted in blue, I can click on. So let me show you what it looks like. If I click on mathematics here, we'll generate a report, and it actually takes us then to the goal report. And as Jeff has pointed out, the goal report is a much more accurate way to look at it, because we can look at individual goals and the RIT scores for each individual goal. Many times you'll see that the overall goal score for the RIT may be higher or lower than their individual goal scores. And so you may want to be looking at those to find out. So let's take a look a little more closely at these. Let's look at, for instance, let's click on this group that we have several in the 211 to 220 range. If I click on that, I will go to the class view for the learning continuum, and I can click on any one of these individual goals. And here are the scores for those, and also the students that scored those. So if I look at this, I can see what the individual goals are as an overall view, and I can see also which students scored in that RIT range. And look at this, as we were pointing out a moment ago, some of these students, for instance, Brando scored only 211, or scored 211 in his overall RIT range, but he scored much higher in this goal range. So this part of the mathematics score, does a very good job on. On the other hand, if I look at Riker also scored lower on his RIT range. We find one that has scored, if I move on down, else in that one that took the test. Let me go to a different one so that you can see some of the others. So let me go to looking at representing and solving problems and see if we have anyone in those areas. Okay, so let's look at Deja. Deja scored 210 on his or her overall RIT, which was a pretty decent score on it, but let's look at the goal range, and that's fairly low for that goal range. So that may be a goal that you might want to concentrate on. One of the things you might think about is that if you have students who are scoring on a particular goal and maybe scoring just a bit lower, you and another math teacher, if there's one in the building, may be looking at doing some team teaching. One of you may be much better, say, at teaching money, or much more comfortable with teaching money, and the other one might be more comfortable with teaching exponents, so that you could team teach and you teach with your strengths. And if that's not possible because of scheduling, you can at least look at each other's lessons and see what's working in one class and what's not working in yours. Okay, let's look at this again. I went back one page. I looked there. Let's look at number and operations again, just to take a look at it. If I click on it, again, it goes to the class view for the learning continuum. And let's look at geometric measurement and just see where we are on that. Nobody in the 171, only one person in the 181. And notice that Isaiah, in this case, had an overall score of 198, a RIT score. So that's a pretty good RIT score, but his goal range was much lower. So he's fairly weak in geometry, and it may be something that you want to concentrate on. We have no students in the 191, so Isaiah is quite an outlier in that group. And then we go on up, and we have several students in 201 to 210. And 211 to 220. So this would be some large group instruction, and then take some time to spend some extra time with Isaiah, helping him on the geometry. Let's go back one more time and look again at this. This is the goal report. Remember, we started at the RIT. And then as I clicked on individual subjects, it took me to the goal report, or I can go to this section and go to the goal report also. So a couple different ways that you can do that. And now there's another one, though, that we haven't looked at yet. This goal up here at the class breakdown, I can do it a breakdown by projected proficiency. So let's take a quick look at that one also. Projected proficiency gives a good report for trying to see how students are doing on an overall and how they might do on some higher stakes testing instead of the formative testing you use with NWEA. So let's look at this. ACT college readiness. This will start in about the 5th grade. They will start predicting how they might do on the college readiness test when they are old enough to take it. And as we can see that we have several students that are not on track to do well on the ACT test. We have none that are predicted to score a 22 on the ACT. And we have about 5 students who are predicted to score 24 or so on the ACT. So we can say that we've got some students that are kind of ahead of the game. We have several that may need some extra help. This is the ACT, and there is a chance that the state will be moving toward an ACT test as to use for end of instruction testing. So this would be a wonderful way to start looking at that and keep an eye on it. In this particular example, these were Ohio students, so it gave a projection of how they might score on the Ohio Achievement Test. In our case, it will be correlated to Oklahoma standards. Data is not yet available for the Oklahoma testing, so that won't be as accurate as we would like, but it will correlate to the Oklahoma standards and the Oklahoma proficiency categories. And as you can see, looking at this, we have Mr. Cormick, which we were already concerned about, who didn't do very well. He's got limited proficiency, and we go all the way up to some that have advanced proficiency. And most of them are right in the range of proficient where you would hope they would be at least to that level. As a general rule of thumb, Jeff has told me that if students score on the 50th percentile in the NWEA test, they will usually pass the state test. So just a rule of thumb on that one. Okay, let's go back once again. I'm going to go back and review again where we've been. So let's go back and start all over again very quickly. Map reports. We were looking at the class breakdown. We're looking at scores from last year to make sure that we have data available. Choose the school, and again, yours will be slightly different from mine, your view, and then choose the instructor. We chose first to go to the RIT, which gives us an overall RIT score. And by the way, checking and looking at the continuum, the RIT range is from about 131 to 270. So that will change. 131 is probably going to be those students who are in general would be in lower grades, first, second grade maybe. And 270 are the ones that are doing very well and scoring very high even at the high school level. So the overall RIT range goes from 131 to 270. I could also go to the goal range either by clicking on this or clicking on the individual subject. That takes us to our goal report, where I can see individual students and goals and the specific goals. And if I click on each of these, I can see what the student got in any one of these goal areas. So if I scroll down, there was Jeffrey that we chose, but I can also click here to go and view everyone so that I can look quickly at one student, but then you move on to looking at the entire class. Let's go back one. And I can also click on the number, and then I will get the class view again of the learning continuum. So 2 or 3 different ways to go there. Go back one more time, just as a review. And then our projected proficiency, which is the proficiency on upcoming high stakes testing. based on the data that NWEA has correlated it to. And finally, if you want to go to look at the learning continuum and see that entire continuum, the easiest place is to go here because you can see it in the class view or in the test view rather than in the class view. So let's go back to math again. And it will show us this view, so I see the entire continuum. And if I click on any one of these, then it will show me the level at which the students should be reinforced in their material, where they should be developing their skills, and where you should be just introducing and new skills and concepts to be developed later. So that's the learning continuum. We will be going to present another one of these. Our next one, which is already now because of the the technology issues, we already have done that. We did the quadrant report that was done, and we will be also continuing with a couple of other reports. Those are usually on the fourth Thursday of the month at 1:30. If you cannot make them, we will also be recording them, and they will be available on our members only page on the opsrc.net website. Thank you again for joining us. We hope that this will eventually get to you and will be all together. We apologize for all the glitches. Please have patience, and we'll try this again. Thanks again for stopping by.